and welcome to episode 27 of On the Bench. On the Bench is the world's only podcast for scale modelers by scale modelers. So if you build aircraft, ships, armour, cars, science fiction subjects, figures, this is the podcast for you. On the Bench is a fortnightly podcast available on iTunes, Stitcher, and all good podcast apps. Don't forget to mark us as your favourite so you never miss a show. And while you're there, leave a rating. That just helps other people find the show as well. If you want to get in contact with us, we'd love to hear from you. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. Firstly, you can send us an email at onthebench64@gmail.com. Alternatively, just pop in the words On the Bench into Facebook and that'll take you directly to our page. And hello and welcome to episode 27 of On the Bench. And in the studio today I've got with me Ian. G'day Ian.
G'day Dave. G'day listeners.
And Julian.
Hello.
Yeah, good mate. Man of few words.
It's pretty early in the morning.
Also in the studio today we have with us Martin Reid. Hello Martin.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here for the first time.
Actually, we had you on the show at Melbourne Expo, didn't we?
Yep, but first time in the studio.
We've got Martin in today because we're having a Wingnut Wings special, and we're very excited about that because we're going to be having a chat with Richard Alexander, who is the General Manager of Wingnut Wings. So later on in the show, it's going to be 100% devoted to Wingnut Wings, and really looking forward to a round and robust discussion about that. But before we get there, what have you guys been doing since we were last on the show?
Well, myself, started painting my Wingnut Wings Junkers D1.
Ooh,
But
very topical given who we're talking to today.
but I had a bit of a paint disaster, so I had to strip it all back, and now I'm starting painting it all over again.
Oh, what was your paint disaster?
The paint disaster was, for some reason, and I totally blame myself for not doing my research, but I don't think the AK Extreme Metal mixed, basically sat very well with the black base that I was using.
Did you use the black base from Alclad?
No, from AK, no.
Oh.
No. And look, it could have been just the way I applied it, but I stripped. Luckily, I used Guns as a black base, which meant cleaning the paint off is quite easy. All you just need is a little pot of Guns thinners and a soft brush, and it doesn't affect the plastic at all, so you just wash it off and end up with black hands. But no, now I'm over the weekend I'll get back into painting the interior of that thing. But it's a gorgeous kit, absolutely.
This just goes to show, I mean, Ian is a master modeller and he's been making so many mistakes in recent times.
I wouldn't call myself a master modeller. But
they're not mistakes, they're learnings.
Learning curve.
You've won a damn few, a lot more awards than I have. And been published in magazines as well.
Not yet.
Soon to be.
Hopefully.
Julian, what have you been up to?
Oh, a few things.
Yeah.
I've started I've got sort of 3 to 4 kits on the go at the moment. It's a case of painting all the cockpits all at once. So I'm working on a N1K2 George Ascala kit.
Yep.
I'm working on the Tamiya P47D Razorback.
Yep.
And what's the third one? Accurate Miniatures Dauntless.
Oh, very nice. What scale is that one?
48th.
Oh, very good.
Except for the Dauntless. I'm not happy with that.
Why not?
Well, I was talking to Ian about it last night, and it's sort of it's not one of the fresh sort of early on manufactured versions of the kit. It's sort of like a far along, and there's a lot of flash involved. And
I'd say their moulds are getting a bit worn.
Oh dear.
Because I've got 2 Dauntlesses in my collection, and they're absolutely perfect.
just rub it in. Good on you. Yeah.
Martin, what have you been doing?
Just having a bit of a break after Expo. I think it's one of those things where you get all inspired, but it's such a busy weekend. I just sort of found myself I must admit I've been ordering a few things, but just having a look through the collection and planning some builds. But it was interesting what Ian said about the black base, because I recently finished the SCM 120th scale Mercedes 1937 Grand Prix car. And while I didn't have the extreme, no pun intended, reaction with applying the metal over the black base, I'd used the Tamiya semi-gloss base, and I did notice some hairline cracks in it. Now, the components that I'd used were sort of hidden by body components. I didn't have to go through the stripping.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting. So so I've had to get some of the black base, because I also got a Junkers D1, which is on the go. And I just want to make sure I get that right.
How are you enjoying that build?
So far, so good. And we'll talk more about Wingnuts a little bit later. But, so basically just ordering and giving the credit card a good beating.
Well, what have I been up to? I'm preparing to start building the Dragon 1350 scale USS Independence CVL2. So just waiting on some parts to come in before I start building that. The model room's complete now, so yay!
Celebration.
Apart from that, I've just recently purchased another book, and this is called The Great Wall at Sea, the second edition by Bernard D. Cole. It's about this analysis of China's navy in the 21st century, so I'm just working my way through that, which is an extremely good read, seeing how large China's navy is becoming, and it's now a blue water navy, so I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge into the future for some countries, but, you know, such it is. Empires rise and empires fall.
Yep.
All right, well, I think what we'll do now is we'll roll into what's new, and we'll see what's happening in the modelling world. So be back very shortly. And we're back to talk about what's new in the modelling world. And first of all, going to be having a look at the latest big cat from Meng Models, the Jag Panther SD KFZ 173, which is I guess you call it a tank destroyer, would you not?
Correct.
And that is in 1/35th scale. And it looks, from what we're seeing, it looks like it's going to make a very gorgeous little kit.
Yeah, Meng's doing quite well with their armour kits.
I can't believe how prolific Meng are in producing this stuff, and stuff goes together really well, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're one of these companies that's really got a high game. And
yeah, absolutely.
Can confirm, I've built 2 of their kits.
And you enjoyed them, no problems?
Yeah, I really like them, especially the tracks.
Yeah. What's so special about the tracks?
Well, I've done the Bradley, and that was just literally clicked together. Like, you build all the tracks up in like 5 minutes or less.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The other one was the T90, and the way that the tracks actually move is realistic to the real thing.
Oh, cool.
Because a lot of other manufacturers don't quite get it right.
Yeah.
It looks to be one that doesn't have the interior, and this seems to be a big thing with armour modelers. I build the occasional one here and there, whether we have full interiors or not.
Well, being an accomplished armour modeler now, having built one.
You haven't finished yet.
I've got to paint it still. Look, I don't really care because it's all buttoned up. You don't really...
Exactly.
Unless you specifically want to sort of model it exploded or opened up with a turret off. You know, I'm not fussed either way.
Or some sort of technical display with the edges, painted in red. You see on
like
some
a cutaway
models. Yeah, but it's just sort of...
Well, the interior thing is definitely a trend at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, it's even creeping into ships now. There's a 1/35th scale assault boat, which the Swedes built, and the name escapes me now as the manufacturer of it. And that comes with all the detail inside, so you can have it sort of opened up and show the engine room and the compartment where the troops sit. So, yeah, maybe it's a thing now. I'm not really fussed either way. I mean, if I get a kit and it's got the interior, I'm not going to go ahead and do it if I'm going to have it all buttoned up.
Yep.
But hey, that's just me. Okay, Alpine Miniatures. They've got a release for June. They're releasing 2 new figures, 135th scale, and these are from the 101st Airborne World War II.
The Screaming Eagles.
Yeah, and also get some spare heads in the same scale, so you can sort of move around with and change your stock figures, which looks really cool for those guys who enjoy building that sort of stuff. Also, now, I came across something, a review of Galaxy Models 148th scale painting mask sets. I'd never heard of these or seen these before, but there's actually a review on the modelingnews.com. If you go to that particular website and have a look, there's a review as to how you actually use them. And I've got to say, they look very, very good for those people who are building fairly complicated kits such as the F-14. The mask is extremely detailed to the masking set, so you can apply it to the whole kit. And it certainly makes life easy. There's no two ways about that.
Oh, definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a time-consuming job to get it done, but I think when you look at the options of getting out the old Tamiya tape and a blade, it's a great way of doing it.
I've become quite lazy, especially when it does canopies. I forever now just buy a kit, get an Edward canopy masking set.
Yeah,
It's just lazy.
Don't put yourself down. It's not lazy. It's efficient.
So that's something for people to go and have a look at as well. Panda Hobby, they've announced the release of a 135th scale M1296 Striker Dragon. Dragoon, beg your pardon. Panda Hobby, anybody have built from Panda Hobby?
No.
No. I believe they're the armor division of Kitty Hawk.
Oh, they really?
Oh, right.
Well, that'll be interesting because Kitty Hawk is a bit hit and miss at times.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, apparently their armor kits are somewhat the same.
yeah. I'm not too sure about the Striker. I know it was very controversial when it first came into operation with the US forces. I think the first time I've gone to a wheeled vehicle since World War II, a new one. Or maybe correct.
Isn't they had the labs before that?
No, well, the labs. I think the labs were used. They came in after the Strikers. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, next from Amusing Hobby, we have a Waffentrager UF E100.
Ooh,
which
I haven't got one of them yet.
Coming out in August. It's, of course, straight from the fictional world of What If and World of Tanks. Gee, World of Tanks has really spawned a whole new...
Oh, I bet it has.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. You sort of think people that are playing the game, could it be their entry into modelling?
I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
We've actually had quite a detailed talk about this in the past, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of anything that cross-promotes our hobby, and this is one of the things that does that. That and World of Ships as well is another one.
Yep.
But yeah, so that looks... So it's something you'd get in?
Yeah, it would actually, because I like me Waffenträgers. Actually, I'm just a big fan of German anti-tank vehicles.
Yeah.
You might not have room for that one. That's a big kit.
In 135th
The
scale?
E100 is a massive chassis.
Yeah, that's right. But it looks cool.
It does look cool. It's very cool.
It looks kind of science fiction.
It does a bit.
Yeah, be a real modeler and buy it and then worry about where you're going to put it afterwards.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, even the box is going to be big, knowing,
Next announcement we got is from Kitty Hawk, and they've announced a Pavehawk HH60G, which is going to be in 135th scale. Release date unknown, costing unknown, but this is going to appeal to a lot of the helicopter builders out there, or indeed modelers in general, because I don't think there's been a decent Pavehawk helicopter built by anybody else that I can recall.
But as you say, it's in 135th scale, and this seems to be a growing trend as well.
Yeah, for the armour modelers.
Yeah, being able to put together aircraft and AFVs together in the one dio.
So you can have your constant sort of scale sitting side by side, absolutely.
Jeez, how big a diorama would that be?
That'd be a pretty large one.
And the good thing is in 135th scale, of course, because helicopters are traditionally quite small anyway, so having a 135th scale would help those get more detail, and hopefully, those whose eyesight is starting to get a bit on the bad
And
side.
of course, the Tamiya range of 48 scale tanks and vehicles have been very popular for a long time. So just waiting on the introduction of 32 scale AFVs.
Yes.
Now, Mantis Miniatures have got some new figures for June. They've got a small boy and a dog, which is called the Peeping Tom. They're looking through a paling fence. We have boys, how would you describe this?
The milkmaid.
A milkmaid. Now, she looks like she's churning some milk into butter.
Yeah, she's hard at work.
In a very provocative sort of pose. Also, you've got looks like an alleyway set. So you've got an old trash can, the old metal ones with a cat sort of crawling in it, and
Pigeons
and a rat with his head in a tin, and just some farmyard sort of a wooden
wheelbarrow, a fence,
a trough,
and a
bag
trough
of potatoes.
Yeah.
So that's all in 1/35th scale from Mantis Miniatures. Now, we're having a look here at the next thing, which is some partial test shots from the Hong Kong models Avro Lancaster in 1/32nd scale. Now, you recall, I think, a couple of episodes ago, we were arguing over whether the glass front section is going to be part of the kit.
And clear front.
From my understanding, it's going to be in a limited release of the first couple of thousand kits. It's going to have two. The one's going to be the clear plastic, and the other one's going to be the plastic in a normal sort of styrene. So
yeah, and I've read that they've gone to great trouble to make sure that there are no ejector pin marks in it.
Yes, in the clear plastic, there's absolutely none from what we've been able to see. So that's certainly going to be a very interesting kit when it comes out, and particularly interested, they've got the wings set up in such a way so that the tail and the wings can be removed for transport as well.
Yep.
So, but you'd want to in 1/32nd scale.
It'd just be a big beast.
What I'm curious is there going to be like a butt join between the nose and the rest of it?
Well, that's the natural when the aircraft was manufactured in World War II. That's the natural sort of mark where the aircraft butted up against, or the front butted up against the fuselage. Anyway, so
I was talking to one guy at Expo, and he was saying that he's actually hoping that they may at some point, even just as an individual model on its own, the whole cockpit sections.
Yeah. Well, could you not just build the front nose section as an individual model by itself and not build the rest?
Well, it's a bit of a waste of money.
No, well, yeah.
You got a lot of waste of plastic there, mate.
The only thing that concerns me about where the tails can be removed for transport, wasn't the antenna going from the central part of the fuselage to one of the tail planes?
Well, to both.
Or to both?
Yep.
So removing it would be useless, wouldn't it?
Yeah, look, I think to be honest, you may as well glue it in, because the tail is it's going to be wide, but no bigger than a normal 32 scale aircraft. So the main wings, yes, possibly. But
Masterbox have announced some new kits for July. They've got a lady on the run, jogger. They've also got a male figure standing with his Labrador dog, which has got his leg cocked. And also in some new figure sets in 1/35th and 1/24th scale. It looks like Civil War era. You got 4 figures there from the Confederates.
Yep.
Which should appeal to those of you out there who enjoy building that from the Civil War. Revell, this month's new releases.
Revell Germany, specifically.
Yes, Revell Germany.
No more Revell USA.
Revell Germany have announced in 1/72nd scale a 100 years RAF Hawker Hunter, the FGA. I've always loved the Hawker Hunter. It's got beautiful lines.
Yeah.
And it was probably one of the better aircraft that the British produced in post-war period. Such a gorgeous aircraft. So 1/72nd scale. It'll be interesting to see how that builds out. Although from the pictures we're looking at, the wheel wells look reasonably detailed for 1/72nd scale, actually. So that'll be interesting to see. Also 1/72nd scale, they've got the Panzerkampf II, the Lusch, which is that lovely little German tank which was used
Early
war. Again in 72nd scale. Also in 1/8 scale, they've doing a US touring bike, which is a hog, Harley Davidson. So lots of chrome, and it's quite large actually, size at 1/8 scale.
That's massive.
Normally the motorcycles don't sort of get up that large. But there's plenty of chrome that'll keep the motorcycle builders extremely happy. Go and have a look at the Revell website for that one. Continuing on with their theme of 100 years of the RAF, they've produced a Eurofighter in 1/72nd scale. They've got the decals to go with that commemorative camouflage that the RAF did, celebrating 100 years, Battle of Britain. Yep. So that'd make an awesome little kit in those colours, actually, wouldn't it?
And I don't think it actually looks all that awkward on it either.
No, it sort of fits really well.
Yep.
So, something new to try. Okay, moving right along. Hawkeye has released some CAD details of their 48 scale Ural 4320 tanker truck and bomb ordnance trolley for those who want to build perhaps a diorama. Actually, it'd make a good airfield sort of set, wouldn't it? But again, in 48 scale, it'll be a fairly large sort of diorama, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Bronco models releasing a 1/35th scale US M19A1 40mm gun motor carriage known as the Duster. This is like a what do you call the hull?
I think, is it the Chaffee hull?
It might be the Chaffee hull.
Or similar. Or it might be the Walker Bulldog chassis.
Well, it's Korean War, so quite possibly the Chaffee.
Well, there's two sort of variants of this. The one where, like this one, where the turret's up the back, and there's the one where it's located more near the front, of which there's an AFV Club kit.
Oh, okay.
I was actually after that kit for some time. I didn't get it when I wanted it.
So you missed out.
Yeah. I'm not too flash hot on it anymore. It's all right. I can live without it.
Oh, gee. So, guys, what have you guys got from what's new? Anything new at all?
No, not really.
No, I mean my nose has been amongst my kits, not so much on the pulse.
Mind you, Julian found some nice decals. I'm not sure how long they've been out for. If anyone's heard of Thundercals?
Thundercals, what are they?
Well, they're a decal company, and Julian got me a set of 1/48 scale Razorback Thunderbolt decals.
Yep.
For the Pacific Theatre. And I've got to say, these are some of the finest printed decals I've seen in a very long time. I'm not sure how they go on, but just going off the printing alone, I highly recommend them. They're absolutely gorgeous decals.
Yep. So I ended up getting a sheet of those myself. Different schemes though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had a couple of things fly in and hit the letterbox. In relation to this year being the 100th anniversary of the Red Baron, Manfred von Richthofen's Downing, company called Aviatic, and we'll talk more about that later in the show. With their stuff that they have for the Wingnut kits, they've done a beautiful figure of Richthofen that comes with 2 different heads and full flying suit. It's one of those things with figures when they try and replicate particular people, getting the faces right can be a real challenge, but this is just magnificent, so highly recommended. And the other thing from Poland, a company called Taurus that do some fine details, they've just released an Clerget engine which can be used in the Sopwith Camel or the Sopwith Triplane, and good to see that the Triplane's going to be re-released later this year. And that is modelling just on the absolute edge. So if you think of a 32 scale rotary motor, about a 40 mil diameter, and 280 parts.
Wow, you're kidding me. 280 parts.
Including full painting instructions for all the different colours on 32 scale spark plugs.
Wow.
And a jig to produce the retaining springs for the top of the cylinder heads.
Seriously?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's madness.
So it just takes modelling to
the next level,
the nth level.
Yeah.
And have a look on Facebook for Taurus model parts, and you see the process that this guy went to produce these, and to the point where he has said that even the casting is so difficult on this particular kit that he does the 9B and the 9Z that he's only doing 50 of each.
So it's actually cast. It's in resin, not...
It's resin.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was about $120 Australian landed. So not cheap, but I've had a few people look at it. That's their initial reaction. Then when they see the work that's gone into it, all of a sudden it seems like, is he only charging that much? Really is special.
So you're going to build it as a standalone kit, or you can actually incorporate it into a model?
That's the interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah. So that, I mean, at first it was about having it as maybe a small dio in an engineering sort of like a workshop type setup where you could see it all. But one of the markings that came with the original Sopwith triplane was a captured German one, which looks really good. And so I was thinking of having one being pulled apart, the cowling off, so that it is actually sitting on the aircraft, but then you can see all around it in a workshop dio.
Wow. Well, I'm really keen to have a look once you've got that finished, and also maybe give us some pictures as well so we can put it on our Facebook page.
And no doubt I'll give a fully detailed run through on about the 300th episode of On the Bench.
One last thing I forgot to mention is that the AFV Club, they're actually in the process of producing a World War II LST, early type, landing ship tank, which I'm terribly excited about.
What scale, Dave?
1/350 scale.
Cool.
And
that is very cool.
It is extremely cool. And it comes with the top part of the LST, so you can lift it off and have a look inside it. It also comes with a number of tracked vehicles and also wheeled vehicles. There's a Buffalo, which is a... what do you call a Buffalo? An amphibian.
Amphibious.
Couple of Jeeps, and as well as that, Julian will be happy because there's a Sherman there represented.
I like Shermans.
Yeah, you like Shermans.
And the challenge is to do the interior of the Sherman.
Well, there was actually a landing craft kit by, was it Revell?
Yes.
That I was quite interested in for some time. Yeah, I don't know.
So this LST comes with 6 little landing boats that go with it. The front doors can be posed open, and so it can be used either just as a static model or in a diorama, and I just can't wait to get my hands on one of these. I reckon it's going to be an awesome little...
Really? You'd buy that?
Absolutely. I mean, even looking at the modelling of the ship, the side of it, I don't know whether it's affected the actual modelling at all, but you can almost see like oil canning effect along the side, which is amazing to get that sort of... Because they were, fairly thin. They were just sort of built as a one-off sort of thing.
Yeah.
And, so... Anyway, go and have a look on the AFE Club Facebook page, and you'll be able to see some really great pictures there of the test shots.
And talking about interiors, you have a look at that. There's a lot inside the hull of that ship, and do you think if the fit is good enough of the deck to be able to pull on and off, that it'd be worth doing?
Yep, you can pose it either open or closed.
Yep.
So very excited about that.
Definitely.
Dave, I actually one of the things I forgot to mention earlier when you were talking about things that we're currently working on. So I bought a ship kit.
Oh, you're kidding
He
me!
did
What?
too,
Hang
yes.
on. Quick, reach for the pacemaker.
So what happened? Ian's been buying some ship kits lately, and as well as some other people in my club. And what ended up happening was he put the idea in my head to buy a kit of the USS Lexington.
Yep.
And I had a look around. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Oh, there's a Meng kit. And being a Meng fanboy, I went straight on it, and I bought it without even really doing my research.
Oh, it's an egg ship.
No, it's not. It's not an egg ship, but it is a snap-together kit. right?
And it doesn't come with decals.
Yeah, it comes with stickers.
What scale?
700th. However, it does look very, very nice. And if anyone does snap tight kits to a T, it's going to be Meng, right?
I'll be very interested to see this.
Yeah.
And
well, it doesn't matter because I've bought enough aftermarket to throw at it that it'll look good anyway. It'll be fine.
So 1/700 scale, is it a full hull or a waterline?
It can be both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Meng engineering for you.
Yep.
All right, guys. I think that'll wrap up what's new, and we'll take a quick break, and we'll come back with our interview and our long-winded discussion about Wingnut Wings. Back shortly. And we're back, and on the line we've actually got Richard Alexander from Wingnut Wings. Hello, Richard.
G'day, Dave and the guys.
Good to have you on the show. Yeah, really good, thanks, mate. And we're super pumped to sort of devote this entire episode purely to Wingnut Wings because we've got so many questions to ask you, and I'm sure you've got a lot of information to impart. But before we actually get down to that, let's give you a bit of a bio on yourself. So, reading the Wingnut Wings website, it says that you are an award-winning scale modeler with many years of experience in the model hobby industry. And you had a long-term interest in military history, race cars, and motorsports, mainly from the 60s, is that right?
Yeah, that all sounds like the sort of thing I might write and put on our website.
So, Richard, tell us, how did you get this, what would have to be a dream job role of working for Wingnut Wings as a general manager?
I was managing a local hobby shop and knew quite a few of the local visual effects people, and obviously Peter Jackson, who was a local filmmaker and a modeler, would come in the shop and got to know him. And I guess when they were shopping around for somebody to look after this project, I imagine they thought of a lot of people, and one of them that they contacted was me. Took a phone call, took a meeting, and the rest is history.
Oh, wonderful. So, while we're talking about history, do you want to run us through the actual history of Wingnut Wings itself?
Sure. So in the very beginning, I wasn't here, but it's obviously Peter's had a long-term interest in modelling and also in a very keen interest in World War I, and in particular aircraft, but also all aspects of it. And I guess he was very keen to turn all of that into a model company to make the sort of models that he couldn't get anywhere else, the way that he wanted them to be made. And when they were filming and doing all the visual effects and stuff for King Kong, they kept on a few of the visual effects artists, and this was in 2004 or 2005, and they sort of parlayed into, doing digital modelling of World War I aeroplanes. But they were visual effects artists, and product designers was way down their list of skills, so they were making beautiful models on a computer, but with very little sort of, very little expertise in designing them to be very nice models to build and that sort of thing.
Yep.
And that sort of ploughed on, and it was they had lots of people doing all of that and working on stuff. And then in 2006, they sort of decided to get really serious, and they bought on a tool designer, somebody with tool making experience, which obviously you need if you're going to be making tooling to injection mold models. And that was Taffy, who's still with us. And then very shortly after that, they brought me on to sort of what they called coordinate the whole thing. So I had a whole bunch of digital modelers, ex-visual effects people, and some graphic artists, and Taffy to sort of try and coordinate this whole thing into a model kit company. And that's sort of how it got started.
Yeah.
And then 2009 in April, we burst onto the scene, announcing our presence and releasing our first 4 kits, to a little bit of surprise and disbelief and excitement to a lot of people.
Those first 4 kits, it certainly took the modelling world by storm and surprise at the same time. There's no doubts about that.
Yeah, no, we do like a good surprise.
And of course, those surprises keep coming.
So, your design and manufacturing process. So, how do you get your kits to be so damn good? I mean, they just simply, they almost build themselves. The way they fall together. Ian is building your latest one, aren't you, Ian? The Junkers?
Junkers D1, yeah.
And Ian was saying, in some areas, the only reason why he's putting glue there, that's just as an insurance policy more than anything else.
Yeah. Everything just clips together so well. You can put basically the whole cockpit together just by clicking it together. Give it a good shake, nothing falls off.
Yeah, it's mostly good luck, really.
And expert engineering.
No, it's a lot of hard work and a lot of rework and a lot of checking and reworking stuff. A few arguments between various people involved in which is the best way to go about doing things, and usually I win, but not always.
And one of the things that has become sort of quite a bit of folklore in building the Wingnut kits is that occasionally you will have some parts that tend not to fit, and then you realise, quite seriously, it's a coat of paint. You've got to get rid of the paint off the mating surface. Bang, it's perfect.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, ideally, I guess they should fit together even with a layer of paint on them. But in reality, if you're trying to glue 2 surfaces together and they're both painted, all you're doing is gluing one layer of paint to another layer of paint.
Yep.
And then the bond is technically as strong as between paint and plastic.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, you should be removing that anyway. You guys know all this.
yes, we do.
Anyway, so, I'll do the long answer. So, we choose a model to make, and then we do research on it, and then more research, and then even more research, and that's books and plans if we can get them, as many high-quality original photographs as we can scrounge from collections and wherever. Can I
ask how long does the research phase go for? Years?
Until we start the model.
Okay.
So, I've got a big long list of stuff to work through. They're World War I airplanes, if you're wondering what they are.
Okay.
And I'm always collecting stuff, plans, drawings, articles, whatever possible. And then when I'm selecting, or we're selecting the next model to make, it's one that we've got as much reference material as we think we can possibly get, which allows us to make the best stab at getting it all right. There's always flies in the ointment where we're just about to send the model off for tooling, and then we get some long lost plans from the factory or some beautiful glass plate negative photographs showing details that we had no idea were there. But, generally we start with the best lot of information we possibly can. And then I allocate the project to one of my designers that I think has the most appropriate skill set to work on it. Some people have a bit more experience in corrugated metal, per se,
Yep.
or German aeroplanes, or French maybe, and then they have to do lots of research as well. They have to go through all of this stuff and familiarise themselves with the aeroplane, and learn as much as they possibly can on their own, and then I review it with them, make sure we both understand what it is that they're being asked to do, and then they just start modelling it in a computer.
So you also, there's a bit of connection too with real life models or real life aircraft, is there not? Where I think it's Peter, and correct me if I'm wrong, has got a bit of a passion for also building one-to-one scale ones that actually fly.
That is correct, yep.
And so a lot of that would be also, I mean, there can't be a lot of drawings around for those sorts of aircraft as well. So but when you do find them, it's a good mix for not only the real one, but also for the model kit that you're building as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's certainly a big help to us if the Vintage Aviator Limited have made or restored or researched a particular airplane that we are doing. That is a huge amount of help to us. You know, it's staggeringly useful. But some people get the impression that having a real aeroplane is the panacea to everything, but real aeroplanes often introduce all sorts of, errors into them. I'm not saying the Vintage Aviators do, but, in a museum or something, generally aeroplanes that have lasted 100 years have gone through quite a few changes to keep them airworthy or display-worthy that don't match the originals that we're trying to make models of. So,
yep,
agreed.
While it's very useful to have the real thing, it's not quite as useful as you might think.
Mm. So how do you go about actually deciding which is going to be your next kit? What aircraft subject you're going to look at and choose? Is there a process for that, or it's whatever? I think we'd like to build this. And this is my favourite one, or because I know Ian's got a real hankering for a particular type of kit that he wants to see you manufacture.
Well, let me know. You never know. You could sway me.
SPAD 13 would be nice.
Oh, what about a BF 109E?
There's enough of them in the other areas.
There's enough 109s.
And that's my answer for the SPAD 13. There's a very good SPAD 13 out there, and that's why we haven't done a SPAD 13.
Yep.
Well, I'll throw one in, Richard. Personally, I'd love to see the Mackie M5.
Ooh.
Talking racing planes, are we?
No. They're a single-engine seaplane fighter from World War One.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Isn't there something like one of those done as a resin kit or something?
There are a few around, but I would love to see it in good old styrene.
Do resin kits already on the market influence your decisions?
To a certain extent, yeah. They won't knock us out. We've done models of kits that have existed already, so it won't knock it out completely, but we'd rather create a model of something that nobody can buy a model of yet, rather than make a new version of something that you could build if you wanted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is it true, Richard, there's a bit of folklore around that Peter himself will often have the final say on what goes out and what doesn't get produced?
Oh, no, it's not folklore. So I'll just go back to how we choose. I've got a long list of World War I airplanes from Peter, and like I say, I'm always adding to the reference material that we have for each. And then when I feel that we've got enough to make an honest stab at some of them, I'll let Peter know which ones are on the coming up, and if he agrees or has a different opinion, that's what we do.
Yep.
So that's how we choose. It's all Peter's wishes.
Yep.
There's no folklore about it. That's
No, I must admit, I'm sort of hoping that one day he'll release the secret that he has a love for Schneider Trophy as well.
We all have our fantasies.
There's some of my product designers knocked up a lot of bogus Wingnut Wings box art with Schneider Cup races and Supermarine types racing planes, and that Mackie that I thought was an M5's racing plane. Man, they look awesome, but they're not on our list.
Those box designers are cruel people.
So all the kits, are they actually manufactured in New Zealand, or do you manufacture them offshore? And if you do, how do you keep on top of quality control?
Well, they're all designed here in Wellington, except in one or two in the early days. We had one of the very first modelers that we inherited from the King Kong days, Mark Miller. He did the Albatross and the Sopwith Pup and the Triplane. He was based here in Wellington, but then he went back to the States and kept working. And so he was based elsewhere. But ever since then, all the design work has been done in Wellington under my direct supervision, so I can, check things daily and review things all the time. So they're all designed here in Wellington, but once we've finished doing all of the design work and everything here, and designing, laying out the sprues and doing all of that sort of stuff, we send the files off to tooling companies in Asia for quotes and various stuff, and then it's all done there.
Well, there's a lot of other manufacturers that also go to Asia as well, but their engineering level of engineering is nowhere as tolerant or as tight as what Wingnut Wings manages to get out. I could name a couple of manufacturers, but I don't want to shame them. But you guys are certainly up there with like Tameya and Hasegawa in regards to how the kits just fall together, and yet other manufacturers just don't seem to be able to sort of make that same grade.
Yeah, I think it's a little unfair to compare us to other similar small manufacturers. We sort of have a different philosophy and driving force, let's say. But the process is ideally every day I'll do the rounds and check on what all the designers are doing and review their work and fact check it to make sure what they've done matches all of our best references, and refine the breakdown of parts and all that sort of stuff. And, make sure that we can incorporate as many variations as necessary into the design of the parts.
When we were talking earlier on off air, Martin, and that's one of the reasons why I got Martin on the show, the thing that's also amazing about what Wingnut Wings has done, not only for the modelling scene, but the cottage industry it's sort of spawned as well. Isn't that right, Martin?
Yeah, the array of things that are available, whether aftermarket decals, the figures, like from Taurus models, I'll talk about it later with some of the engines that they do. You can go to this incredible length to produce something that is just phenomenal, just museum quality. And this is what I've really enjoyed seeing over the last 10 years as well, just growing that interest in Great War modelling.
Mm.
Yeah, no, it's encouraging to see, and and some of that stuff is really, really good, and some of it is not, and some of it is. I sort of cringe sometimes when I see some of the stuff being used enthusiastically but incorrectly on our stuff.
Ah, that's really interesting.
People accidentally inaccurating their models with aftermarket stuff they bought. It's not that the aftermarket stuff is necessarily wrong, it's that it's wrong for the thing they're putting it on. But so long as it gives whoever the hell is doing it enjoyment, that's the main thing.
Yep.
But it is a little, curious sometimes.
What are you talking about, like wrong paint schemes or wrong wood being used in certain areas of the model when that didn't actually have it in real life, or
perhaps some wicker seats, Richard?
Yeah, maybe something to do with wicker seats, but like to people who aren't immersed in World War One aviation and modelling and stuff, almost all German machine gun barrels look the same, and then there's some really great aftermarket machine gun barrels available, and then people will just take one and put it on 3 different guns, making 2 of them wrong.
Right, yeah.
They look cool, but they're wrong.
But they're correct, yes.
So we've got little hints and tips on our website to try and prevent that from happening. But again, if it happens, it doesn't matter because the modeler loves it, and it's fine.
And your instructions often have brilliant photos that can give reference to and provide the information required, right?
Yes, we have very good relationships with various collections and collectors, and we are able to publish a lot of their photos. They're very generous. We also have access to a lot of other photos that we can't publish because we don't have the rights to publish them and stuff. But yeah, I certainly try and select the most useful photos for the instructions to get points across to the modeler or about various differences or overturn previous misconceptions about how various things are supposed to look.
It's also good there's an honesty in there as well. Like in my recent build of the Torb, you made mention in the instructions of the oil tank. Now, one's in there, but you don't have the reference for where it is. So you point that out to the modeler. And that sort of honesty about detail is really good as well.
Oh, well, I'm certainly in it for the truth. Just don't want to cover things up. Don't want to Watergate the whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in dispelling misconceptions and not trying to make truths out of what you think might be right, and just having the courage to say that you don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah. In this game, you have to. Otherwise, the most certain way to be wrong about something is to say it was only one way, or it was always like this, or this is this is how it was. So that's pretty much the best way to be proven wrong about anything.
Yep.
Because there's so many. It's not that anything is possible, and there's certain rules that various things follow. But it's very, very important that you just don't get too dogmatic about things, and get all upset when other people disagree because you might actually be wrong.
Yeah.
And hell, if somebody will come up with evidence to prove that we're wrong about anything, I'll love to see it. It's fantastic.
And you've even on a couple of
correction.
Sorry, yeah. I was going to say even a couple of colour schemes. You've issued corrections for decal sheets and the like, which has been really good to see.
Honestly, might come across as a bit of a muppet, but we just put a correction up on our website yesterday for a specific detail on the Albatross D5 that nobody had really noticed wasn't on it. So there's a little correction on each of our Albatross D5 models saying to remove a little detail that was really only on the D5A.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Around the lifting handle at the back. It's a rookie mistake, but geez, yeah. I mean, it's in an area that's mostly in shadow all the time and everything, but just going through a few things for loading up the website content for this Manfred von Richthofen release to the Albatross D5, it became quite apparent it's just not there.
Right. Yep.
That's the
that's
classic
an example.
modeller's dilemma, isn't it? That the photos that you have on hand never show the one thing that you want to see.
Yeah. Or they arrive long after you've gone past the point of no return.
Exactly. Yeah.
The other thing that it constantly amazes me about Wingnut Wings is that not only are the kits, drop dead gorgeous in their own right, even without building them, but the artwork that's done on the box, and Julian mentioned earlier before, the instruction manuals, how beautiful the instruction manuals are. And, the whole package just comes together and just fits so well.
Yeah, best instructions bar none.
Yeah, absolutely. Your model, your website is a beautiful website in its own right, and the amount of information that the modeler there can go there and seek is just the whole package from start to finish is just
quality.
Absolutely, yeah,
top quality.
And I don't mean to sound like a Wingnuts fanboy, but
no, that's my job, Dave.
I'm not opposed to that.
But the other thing, in all seriousness, I've been purchasing kits from right from the start. There have been a couple of times where I've made mistakes. I've stuffed up parts, or I've needed to purchase aftermarket parts. And dealing with the company, particularly Dave Johnson over there, just magnificent. Really, really good teamwork. You feel like, I know this probably sound a bit funny, but almost like you're part of a family. It's like a modelling family.
Part of the fraternity.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, I think that's something that's lacking in a lot of other model manufacturing companies. There's not enough communication with the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty rare these days.
I guess it's difficult for big companies where there's not one or individual people you can contact for just about anything. There's departments and heads of departments, and then it's a little bit, you lose that personal touch. I guess it makes it a little bit more difficult.
Constantly being
we're there to try and make people enjoy the process of building the models even more, and getting extra parts to people is certainly part of it.
Yeah, and I think particularly when you talk about getting people to enjoy the modelling, I mean, one of the things that I've always done, and I've built quite a few now for Model Art Australia in the review, and one of the things I put across in my reviews is I encourage people to just enjoy them, build them out of box. This is probably maybe the negative side of these amazing kits, how well they're presented and the details that you get in the box, is that I've got lots of modelling friends and colleagues that are building up their stashes, yet actually getting them built is just a whole always I hear, I just got to get my skills up. I've just got to be able to do this, just got to be able to do that. And I say to them, just enjoy it.
Just build it.
Absolutely, because they do go well together. If you've got some basic modelling skills under your belt, go for it. Even if you don't rig the thing, it still looks amazing.
That sounds like good advice to me, Martin. I go along with that.
And I think this is where the Junkers D1 is a masterstroke, because I know a few people have said, right, this one I'm going to have a go at. Even a couple of people who don't actually have an interest in that specific aircraft as such, they see it as an avenue into the Wingnuts model range.
I've fallen in that category because I've got a fair few Wingnut kits in the collection. And as you said before, Martin, so I thought, I'll wait off. And then the D1 came out, and I was like, this is a hot rod. I've got to get this.
Well, rigging can be intimidating.
Definitely.
Bought one and building it straight away.
Yeah, and as Julian said, they can be intimidating. Yeah. And I think one of the things, and Richard, I'm sure you saw it and would agree, is that with the absolute masterful work people were doing with the early Wingnut releases, beautiful hand-painted wood schemes and all that sort of thing, and then posting it up, people going, oh my goodness, I have got no opportunity to do that sort of work, therefore I'm not worthy type thing. Yeah. Which is a real pity.
Yeah, but at the same, what people have to just realise is that it is a model kit. It's only plastic. If you stuff it up, you can buy another one.
Yep.
It might cost you a bit, but you can do it.
And it's always just
I would encourage anybody that's having second thoughts about making a start or feeling a bit discouraged to just have a look at the customer models gallery on our website. There's models on there from modelers all around the planet of many different skill sets, and it's really amazing to see them submitting their works. You know, you can see everything on there. It's just fantastic. And you know, some people look at something and go, "Oh, there's no way I'll ever do that," and then the next one you click on, oh, I can build something like that.
Yes.
Look at that person. It's great to see. Fantastic.
Well, I bought the Fokker D7, and I did so sort of going, okay, well, the rigging's intimidating, so I'll pick one with not much rigging.
Yep.
But then after I bought it, I sort of thought about it for a while, and I thought, well, if I'm going to build one of these things, I probably should have picked one that has rigging, right? Because if I'm going to do it, I may as well go go in properly, you know, not just sort of put my feet in and then walk back out.
But the D7's such a classic aircraft.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people overthink it too much.
Yeah.
The rigging. If you read the hints and tips on our website, it's pretty clear my point of view. And that's keep it as simple as possible. Use that stretchy elastic stuff just glued into holes.
Yep. Exactly.
And that's all I've used when I've rigged, the ones I've built. And if I had to go through a lot of the stuff that people recommend doing online, I don't think I would have finished any of them. I can't be bothered.
Yeah, and certainly for rigging, what I do for turnbuckles is that I just get the Albion Alloys micro tubing and just cut it into 4 mil lengths, and it's really just adding a small extra step over the top of just exactly as Richard said, just gluing the stretchy line into the holes.
Yep.
And that gives, to me, a really, really good representation of a turnbuckle with really, really, small amount of effort.
Yes.
And because your tubing's on the line, it's in the same direction as the rigging and everything.
Correct.
So it maintains that visual aspect that sometimes is lost with a bit when you try and add more detail.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so I think overall as well, then you can go to the other end of the scale. Like just recently finished the Torb. Now, even using a simplified way of doing the rigging, that was an interesting build because the amount of rigging is one thing. It's a real backhanded compliment to the incredible moulding techniques that you have with your injection moulding there, is that the tail particularly is just so thin. Like it has that transparent look, even when you put a layer of paint over it. And what I found is that when I'd attached the lines underneath, I had a little bit of an ocean effect. So it was actually tensioning the plastic tail.
Yep.
It's that thin.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I had to fix a couple of the lines, and then I had to do the top ones. And again, I had to redo a few just to actually get it straight. So there is a bit of a challenge. So as a first up kit, definitely I wouldn't recommend the Torb, but certainly one to work towards.
Yeah, the Taub was an interesting one that we were very, very pleased with the tooling company and how they were able to get that tooled so nicely. I mean, we modelled it, but they had to tool it. It's a whole new game. And also the injection moulding it's just amazingly done. It certainly took a little bit longer to injection mould those than a normal kit to make sure all the plastic filled them and everything. The other interesting thing with that Taub is that although there is a lot of rigging on it, it's one of the Taubs with about as little rigging as any of them. Most of them have a ton more. So it's about as easy as you'll get with a Taub. But there is that weird sort of one line going into 6 or 8 lines, for the control surfaces that's a little bit peculiar.
Yeah. So there's certainly a few challenges there, but with the array of kits that are on there, going now from our new Junkers D1 that Ian and I have got on our modelling benches at the moment, through to the Torb, and there's everything in between. So really good array to test your skills on and develop your skills. And I think one of the other areas of the Wingnut kits that has helped me with my modelling, that at first was a bit intimidating, with things such as doing the wood graining. Now, I did have a go at doing the propeller on the very first one I built was the Roland D6 And
Oh, yeah.
so that was an interesting one. I ended up doing that just like a combination of paint and pencils. And then moving on to some of the other models where I had a bit of wood graining on the inside, I utilised the Ushi wood grain decals, and then branched out my skills into some oil paints and just seeing what was on the net and expanding on those skills as well. You can Ushi even do leather decals now. So for those that are feeling a bit intimidated, these are the sorts of products that are out there. We were talking about the engines, like the Taurus engines now, 280 parts for a Clerget 9B engine. That's going to be an interesting build, but I intend to hang that off the front of a Sopwith triplane at some point.
It's got twice as many parts as the model kit.
Exactly.
Exactly. So, but that's planned for a diorama scene. I actually want to do the German captured one. So one that's being pulled apart. So that's one that I'll go to town on. But for the most part, it's utilising just basic modelling skills and some of the good aftermarket products. Aviatic do an interesting array of fabric looking lozenge decals if you want to go to that extreme as well.
Nth degree.
Yeah. And Richard, have you heard of the drooling bulldog paints?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I've got a few of those, and I'm actually going to utilise those on the Junkers D1. That was interesting learning about them. Now, they're saying that they've done the research into not just the colours that they used to mix up all their paints, but like the chemical structures, how the paints were quite transparent, and they'd mix a zinc oxide in it to get a bit of opaqueness, so that a red aircraft wasn't really just a red aircraft. Depending on what surface it hit, you'd have all these different textures and shades of red.
Yeah. Just treat all that sort of stuff with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Anybody that says they've got the one true formula for something, just don't buy it hook, line and sinker. I'm not saying anybody's wrong, but it's more people are wrong by saying they're right than the other way around.
Put it in your quiver with all the other arrows and use them if required.
I mean, I imagine that, over there in New Zealand, you've got quite a library of information. Exactly, like how much? I mean, is it in books? Is it digital? I mean, how much information would you have altogether?
Oh man, it varies considerably. Something like, let's just say, the Junkers D1, which is absolutely one of my favourite ones we worked on because, man, we discovered so much about it. We had around 100 photographs.
Wow. And
almost no plans or drawings. Maybe half a dozen. We had, there's published plans and model books and magazines, but we almost never refer to those because they're not normally accurate enough. We refer to them as a last resort. So we had, for the Junkers D1, we had maybe around 100 photos and almost no plans. For something like the Dolphin, we had over 500 photos and over 500 drawings and plans from the Sopwith factory.
Does that sometimes make it more difficult when you're overloaded with reference?
It can do, but it's much better to be like that than the other way.
True. Very true.
Much better. But it's a big job trying to work out which of the things you need to pay attention to and that are important and found their way onto World War I airplanes, and which sort of preliminary drawings of parts or suggested replacements that never found their way into production, and just make sure whatever you find in the plans and drawings, you can back up with some image from World War One showing that area of the aircraft and proving that it existed like that.
Yeah,
it's a big process.
Absolutely. And I think, we're talking about things like the drooling bulldog paints, which I'm going to give a go on the D1, but one of the interesting things is that in building Wingnuts kits is that I've discovered the joy of using Tamiya paint. Now, as a modeler of many, many years, it wasn't until I started doing the Wingnut stuff that it started out just purely being lazy or economical or efficient, and just buying the Tamiya paint, mixing it up as suggested, using the Tamiya proprietary thinners. It was like, what have I been missing out on all these years? Sometimes we get so overloaded with choice and trying to get the nth degree products out there that we're missing the basics of our hobby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
It's the most widely sold paints out there, isn't it?
Tamiya, yeah.
Yeah, and they're my favourites, the Tamiya paints. I mean, obviously you can buy them here, so that's why I'm familiar with them, as well as the Humbrol. And you can pretty much buy them anywhere, and if you don't like using those paints, you've normally got some sort of benchmark that you can find a similar colour to, because they are pretty much everywhere. But what surprised me is that in some countries, they don't sell the Tamiya enamels.
Oh, yeah.
So some of the metallics and stuff are really only good if you're using the enamels rather than the acrylics.
Yes.
And some people in some countries obviously can't. They're stuck with the acrylics.
Yep.
And all of our paint suggestions are obviously based on the Tamiya mixes first, and then secondarily on the Humbrol. But I'll never say they're all right. They're a best guess and a best approximation, and as best we can do.
And I'm sure if you could go back in time, hit the time machine, go there, you'll look at aircraft that have different variations of, quote unquote, the same colour.
Well, it's interesting we're talking about that because there's another podcast I listen to. It's called Extended. It's done over in the UK, and the most recent episode is on Anthony Fokker, and it goes through his life story. It's fantastic. It goes for about an hour. Great to listen to. It's actually got the author of who's done a book on him, and Anthony Fokker. He was it was only when he was in the US and he was looking at the production of I think it was a Douglas DC-1 and DC-2. It was all metal. And it was then that he realised how you can get quality control into your aircraft because everything was all hand-built prior to that. And so here we are in the late 1920s, and he's suddenly, early 30s, and he's come across a manufacturing process, and he goes, I can now get quality control into my aircraft because it's all metal and all sort of punched out in machines rather than being hand-built. Because prior to that, no two aircraft were exactly the same. Each aircraft had its own little quirks and issues, and I'd highly recommend people go back and dig out that particular podcast and have a listen to it. It's really informative.
Yeah, and Anthony Fokker did have a few more quality control problems compared to most other manufacturers at the time as well.
Yeah, they had things like the wings were falling off.
Other manufacturers were a little bit better.
Yeah, the wings were falling off because they didn't varnish certain parts properly enough in the factory, etc., which is a bit disconcerting if you're a German pilot and you're flying along and you see your wings suddenly come off.
In most cases, you had two sets, so what's the problem?
But just getting back to the paints and stuff, so I did sort of say, our mixes from the Tamiya are the best approximation, but we do have access to quite a lot of original fabric samples in many cases, so they're a very good match. I'd stand behind them. Certainly wouldn't say it's the only way they look, but it's certainly the best approximation.
Best you're going to get.
Come up.
Yep.
Well, I mean, from the way it sounds, I would assume that you guys have the biggest nexus of information available at your feet, and it's probably unlikely that anyone else has more information than you guys.
I wouldn't say that. No.
Really?
The Imperial War Museum and some of the archives in Germany and Italy, and there's tons of information out there we just don't have access to. And new photos are being discovered now of things from well over 100 years ago.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yep.
So, Wingnut Wings into the future, whereabouts are you still going to always maintain just your World War I flavour, or are you going to start creeping into the 1920s as well?
Well, we've got into the 20s already, but basically by using aircraft created and designed in World War One. But we have no plans to. Our plans are to concentrate on World War One. There's still plenty to do there.
Oh, heaps, absolute heaps.
Never say never, but that's what we're concentrating on. That's what we know best.
It's true.
That's right. You got the winning formula.
Yep.
So, any chance of a scoop in letting us know what your next model is going to be, Richard?
Good luck.
Not really. I'll say that.
It's got at least 2 wings.
So you asked a question about what's happening in the future, and I poo-pooed, interwar planes, but we've got plenty of models planned that are going to be released well into 2020 and beyond.
Fantastic.
And they're just sort of being modelled or in production or in tooling stage now. We've got a few more re-editions of existing kits and new boxes and new schemes to get some of the sold-out models back into the market.
Oh, good. Because there's a few that there's a few I didn't get that on now I'm bleeding. I missed out on.
Yeah, it's a shame, but it's a good way of getting them out in a new form. A few more of the personality releases, like we've just started taking pre-orders on that Manfred von Richthofen Albatross D5, so we've got a few more of those planned, and we've had those planned for 9 years or so. Those figures, the Mike Good figures. I commissioned those in 2009.
Wow.
So we've been sitting on those for quite some time.
Jeez, yeah.
And we've still got special editions planned of all of our standard releases. We've been threatening that for the entire time we've been public, and they're still being threatened, and they will come eventually. And similarly with the standalone figures and stuff like that.
Yes.
They will eventually come out. And in some sort of tangential way, the release of these, the Manfred von Richthofen and the other ones, are sort of a bit of a proof of concept that, the figure production will be good enough to support what we've got planned. So, a scoop... No, but I can tease something in that all things going well, and they don't always go well. So treat that as you wish. We should have something with a bit of an Aussie flavour out before the end of this year.
Ooh. Oh, well, I'll take that then.
You can read into that what you want.
That's the closest to a leak we'll ever get.
Yes.
Well, I'm putting money on the fact that it won't be a jet.
Fantastic.
I'll accept that bet.
All right, Richard. So, guys, I think that's pretty much putting us close to the clock. Anything else from you, Martin?
No, look, I think I just keep saying the same thing to anyone that has Wingnut Wing kits in their stash. Just pull one out and start gluing it together.
Yep.
And you got any last questions for
I totally agree
Richard?
with Martin, and I'm doing that right at this very moment. Just putting together, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Oh, good.
I think out of all of us, I'm probably the most. Even though I own one Wingnut Wings kit, I'm probably the least involved in this particular genre. So I wouldn't even know what to ask really. But
Richard, thanks so much for coming on the show. Yep. Next time you're over from Australia, give us a buzz and we'll have to go out and grab a can of lunch or even a dinner together. And I'm sure the boys will be quite happy to join me in doing that. I know you did get over this side.
Very generous of you.
I know you do get over this side of the ditch every so often, so just give us a heads up next time you're over. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yes.
Thank you
so much. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Richard. Take care.
Thanks so much for sharing all the information. And we'll keep our eyes open for that teaser that you just dropped earlier on, and we'll go from there.
Definitely.
I'd just like to say your guys, your enthusiasm is very encouraging.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
All right. Thanks
Richard.
very much.
Thanks.
Take care.
Well, that was an excellent interview catching up with Richard. Certainly said a few interesting things there.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I've really got my... he's really piqued my interest about the Aussie flavour thing they said possibly might be happening towards the end of the year.
Yep.
So I'll just have to wait and see what that is. Okay, well, that wraps us up now. It puts us well over our normal 1 hour mark, but I'm quite sure that our listeners won't be too upset about that.
No.
Given it was a Wingnut Wings special. Got to thank you, Martin, for coming out.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it and the opportunity to talk to Richard again.
Yes, and it's always good to have an expert who's actually built a few Wingnut Wing kits.
Exactly.
Although, Rich, you're nearly there, aren't you, Ian? You've nearly finished yours.
Nearly finished. I've barely started.
All right, so that's it from us today. Next episode, we're still figuring out what we're going to do, but you'll keep an eye on Facebook and we'll be able to give you some information there, what's coming out next. So from me, it's goodbye. From Martin.
Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed being with you guys.
And from Ian.
No worries, guys. Have a good one and keep on modelling.
And Julian.
I'm going to go build my moles now.
All right, guys. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode as much as we did. It's now been over 1 year since I first started out with this project. That was driven more by my frustration at not being able to listen to podcasts about model building more than anything else. So as modelers, what do you do when you can't find something? You tend to scratch build it yourself. And that's exactly what I did with On the Bench. And boy, was it a steep learning curve. But the feedback from you, the listeners, has been nothing short of amazing. I've enjoyed the journey as much as you've enjoyed listening. But we've now reached a point where we need your ongoing support to help cover costs such as hosting fees, equipment, etc., etc. So this is our call to arms. We're asking you to donate just $1 per month to help us with our ongoing costs. If you can find it within your hearts just to donate that $1, we can be found at Patreon.com/onthebench. Thanks very much for listening.